Hey guys, I haven't been posting on my Ailer Engineering Facebook page a whole lot lately. As most of you guys know, on my page, I had a really bad attack of the flu. This is going into the fourth week. I'm about 85%. It just kicked my butt really bad, and so I haven't been posting much on my page, just a little bit here and there. So I thought I might do something a little bit different and actually show you what it actually takes to design and build a reed kit from basically start to finish. I've got an order for a reed conversion kit for GT750 Suzuki. I had started a kit probably 8 or 10 years ago, and you'd have a little interest, and then there would be no interest, and this and that, and so I finally just gave up on it because lack of interest. But I actually had a customer call and say, I want a kit, I'll pay for the R&D and the design and everything and the parts. And so I said, okay, I'll do that. So this project started. I basically almost had to totally restart the kit from a design point of view, because after looking at it farther into the kit, I had to do a lot of changes. But this is kind of just to give you an idea what it takes to actually come up with and design a reed kit conversion. I started out basically, this is the H2, this isn't a finished setup, but this is a stage 2 reed conversion kit for the H2s. I started with this reed block because this has already been dyno tested, flow tested, and is a really good kit power wise. And so I started with it, as this would also fit on the GT750 after the modifications. What I did is I actually had to take a wax. Everything I do is lost wax, the aluminum. And I had to take a wax and I had to modify that wax to actually fit in the Suzuki intake port. So I did that, and then I had it cast up, and then I had to modify it for the my newer design, finished design. So the width is the same. It's got a little bit more area because in between I lost some area at the top, which isn't a huge deal. It's not going to make a big difference. So that's where I started out. I got this built up, finished, matched the other parts, and then once that happens, you have to make a mold of it, a negative mold, which I use just about everything. This is plexiglass and JB Weld, and also 2-part silicone, which a lot of molds are made out of. You can see the screws. I have the screws in there, so everything's pre-threaded on the part when it's cast. This is all the plexiglass. You can see what it takes to get this part. It takes a lot just to figure out exactly how to make the mold come apart, so you don't have undercuts and things like that. So this is a complicated mold actually. So, but I got that. That would be the mold. I take pressurized 155 degree wax, which is pressure injected into this part, into this mold, which makes a wax positive to be sent off to be lost wax cast, and the aluminum part comes out. So that's how the center section part went. The carb mount part, again I used some plexiglass, Bondo, and a little bit of everything else. I did some, I didn't want to make it look just like a block, so I did, it's kind of hard to tell here, but I did some shaping on it, just kind of gives it a fin looking thing, and you can take a look. Here's a mold for that. Let's see if I can pull this apart. There you go. I forget how this stuff works. But it's got the pins, so I have the holes, the go-through holes for the bolts. This is the mold for the sprue channel for injecting the wax. I did that out of just a piece of plexiglass and ground it. And so that's in there, but you can see, looks kind of funky, but that's a negative for this part. And that gets injected also. And what that ends up is being this. And so this is the casting, aluminum casting there. So you have that. And then the third piece to the setup, at least of the casting, is the part that mounts it onto the intake stub on the Suzuki's. You can see this was a multiple piece unit, and took quite a bit of engineering trying to figure out how to get everything in there, but finally got that figured out and finished up. That takes hours and hours of time. Here's a mold for that. Let's see, I don't think I can pull it. I can't pull it apart because I've got the screws in there right now, but the Allen head. But that's why when you do it with the screws, it's pre-threaded. You just kind of have to clean them up. This again is just plexiglass inside there. And this is all a 2-part silicone, which you pour. You have to vacuum to get the bubbles out, and you pour out. So that's your mold for a master for that part. And that part looks like this. So once you get this, then you have all your 3 castings. Now, I have to, with the waxes, you get some shrinkage, so you have to pre-machine some of this stuff. And then after it's pre-machined, you have to finish machine all of it so it's all flat. And like I said, this is kind of weird to figure out to get everything to fit together and be able to be assembled. So you've got your reed block here, and these are machined together. You have your outer plate, which bolts together. And so this will be on the intake stub of the cylinders, and your reed block inside the intake port on the Suzuki 750 GT. So those are the 3 aluminum parts. So it takes a ton of work trying to figure out how to get everything together. I had to redesign a bunch of stuff, the way everything was assembled. It didn't want to assemble like I did it the first couple of times, so I did that. Next, it's all custom stuff. You get the tedious stuff. I have to make reed stops, custom reed stops, because this is a different kind of setup. So I had to make those. And basically, hey, it's brass plate. You do your outlines. Cut it with snips, then you have to grind and buff out and all the sharp edges. This is like a raw cut. Then you've got the outsides finished and smooth, so it doesn't cause any problems with the reed. And then you have the finished one, which is a dual bend because of the you don't want to. This is the fulcrum point of the reed to be forced. So you have your primary bend here to let the bend wherever it wants to, and then the slight curve just because of the flexing of the reed. So this is the finished top stop there. Now next, the reeds, you have to basically on these kits and stuff, you have to take what you have and modify it. For the bottom reed on this guy, I just take some redesign I have, and then I have to recut it to fit and seal. There's also a smaller stop on this. I just don't have that here. But you know, you literally have to custom make the reeds for all of this stuff, because there's not going to be really any production on these guys. So everything's just basically handmade. As far as the reeds goes, that's a modified reed from my other kit here. Now this is the tedious part, because you have to basically just hand fit these guys, and then once you get the shape you need, then you have to make a template, or a cutting template basically for it. And I use plexiglass again. You have to have a front and a back. And so you have to basically hand cut all this stuff and get it to fit. Well, I machine a lot of it, and then you have to hand finish it. But so you have your reeds here, so you can you bolt this on top, and then you have Actually, they go in between. Then I just use a router bit and I go along the edges. This is my guide, and I go along the edges around there. I had to cut my reeds to fit and drill them. One other thing, which is all makes it a lot tedious, a lot more tedious, is for extra reed life, so it didn't actually beating against the aluminum. I make a fiberglass cushion. So that's basically a reed with that's epoxied on, actually super glued on, between the reed and the aluminum for better reed life there. So this is what gets super glued onto the aluminum. And since you have finishing inside here from the castings, things like this, you don't want it exactly perfect. So you have to, I leave an edge all the way around here, so when I'm finishing this, I can also finish that. And so that also entails, you know, cutting out these guys and an indent in here. So, oh my gosh, it's a pain. So I can cut my reeds using this, and then for my reed cushions, I just bolt these guys in between these two, and then have my 4mm carbide cutter, and then I just run it out, cut out, and so I have just your rough estimate guessed here. So that's for that, and yeah, that's kind of about it, because you end up with your topper. You've got your cushion, you've got your reed, then you've got your reed stop here. I don't know if you can see too much, but you've got your reed stop like that on the top. Then on the bottom, I don't need a cushion because this reed really doesn't open a lot. This is kind of like a booster reed, so a booster reed, so I don't need a cushion on that one. So this also gets a stop, and so that's there. So that's what it all entails. It's just a whole lot of work and a lot of tedious stuff, but this is going to be awesome. Any of the other guys have been following me on my page. I just did a reed conversion setup for a friend of mine that with a Suzuki Titan Twin, and he hadn't had the chance to test a whole lot other than go up and down the street. But his is a race bike, ported race bike, which would never wheelie, and now it does. So we'll get another report on that. But just to let you know, this is just, I thought it might be, I'm sure it'll be interesting to some of you, and the other ones won't care. But it's just kind of a fun thing. It's rather complicated. It's not easy as it looks to get all these parts made. But there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. A little bit of entertainment.